So good morning, folks. This is Jim Hodson. I'm out here at Prop Wash with Lanny, Parcell, and Tom Swindle. We're going to do a O-1 bird dog update. It's November 4th, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to start. So let me know how the sound is, because we're trying something a little bit different here today. So this is Lanny, for those of you who haven't met him before, and this is Tom Swindle. Hey, Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
Tom's got on his O-1 bird dog shirt. And Lanny's got his Cowtown Aerocrafters shirt. So,
Hello, everybody.
Since we were out here last time, you've got the airplane in the hangar now. And why don't we just walk around it, or you tell me what you have been doing in terms of assessing it and all the rest of those things.
All right. Well, as you can see, we got the cowling off, and we've been inspecting the engine. You know, one of the wild cards on this project is the condition of the engine.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really kind of a crapshoot, so to speak, on how well an engine survives not being used. I mean, that's actually the worst thing you can do to an engine, is just let it sit.
Right.
So it's sat for a while. It appears to be in good shape. There's no corrosion. It's got clean oil in it.
Okay. Good.
We haven't actually pulled the plugs yet and bore scoped the cylinders. It's a little early for that yet.
Yeah.
But that's probably, like I said, that's the wild card on this whole project, is what the engine's going to take. And I know when we unpacked all of the boxes that came with the airplane and the spare parts and all of that good stuff, there's another ignition harness in there, and there's a lot of engine,
okay.
a lot of engine parts.
Okay.
I don't know if it came with a spare or if somebody donated a spare engine, but there's an engine that looks 90% complete that's completely disassembled. So.
We didn't bring anything back with us, but I know through the Bird Dog Association,
yeah,
and some other groups, things kind of showed up.
Yeah.
So,
so it's all goodness. So there's things to work with if we have to overhaul an engine. You know, my plan right now is we're going to clean it up. We'll probably put the new ignition harness on it. Probably put a new set of plugs in it. Or actually, we'll take the old plugs out. We'll bore scope the cylinders. I don't expect to really find anything that's going to be a deal killer, because the cylinders are chrome.
Okay.
So that means that's good news. That means the cylinders won't be pitted. If anything has gone south from sitting up, it's going to be the rings.
Okay.
And so that may be simpler to repair if we have to top it. So do a top overhaul.
Well, I know there's a lot of people out here who may not be familiar with this. So, first of all, explain bore sighting and then a top overhaul.
Okay, so bore sighting is when we use a fiber optic, like a stethoscope for sight, so to speak. So we put the bore scope down in the cylinders, and it's a little camera, kind of like the plumbers use these days looking for a plug. It's like a little camera, and we'll be able to see the inside of the cylinders to see what the condition of them is. And
so you're going to be looking for corrosion or pitting or those kinds of things?
It'll be real quick. I mean, if they've corroded from sitting, then it'll be dark in there.
Okay.
If it's shiny, if it's bright inside, then that means that the chrome has stayed in good shape and the cylinder walls are smooth, which is what we want. And we can't really look at the condition of the rings with the piston in the cylinder, but that would be the next thing, and that's just the best way to tell what kind of shape they're in is going to be to run it and get it warm and then do a compression test on it.
And you mentioned a top overhaul. What is that?
Well, if you've in aircraft reciprocating engine vernacular, there's the bottom end and the top end. So the bottom end is the crankshaft and the rods and the bearings, and the top end is the pistons and the rings and the valves and the valve seats.
And that sounds to me like it's a simpler process than doing the bottom end.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. When you do a top overhaul, you take the baffles off of the engine and some of the accessories off the engine, the exhaust system off the engine. You pull the cylinders off, and then you send them to a shop and they do it. You'd leave the engine still going to be hanging on the airplane. Okay. You don't even have to take the main case out of the airplane. You just pull the cylinders off, and if they're in really good shape and they mic out, they're still round. And you use a micrometer to measure the diameters and the roundness of the cylinders. If that's all still good, then in some cases you can just buy new pistons and new rings and put it back together and break the rings in.
So it's not even a full overhaul that way. It's
Right.
So why don't we walk around the airplane a little bit, and you can show me what some of the things that you've been doing on it.
Okay.
And then I know Tommy's got a story.
As we kind of work our way back, one of the things that that we've discovered in the inspection is that
Where'd Tom go? Oh, there he is back there.
there's been repairs in the landing gear area. So
There have been?
yes, it
Okay.
has been repaired. On the other side, there's several patches, and there's patches on patches, so it's been worked on more than once.
On the struts itself?
No, on the fuselage, the frame of the
Oh,
fuselage.
okay, okay.
As the way this landing gear attaches in there, there's two bulkheads on either side of the gear. There's this one that makes the post,
Okay,
goes to the front spar of the wing. That's that's the biggest piece of structure in the airplane. It's a big ring that goes all the way around.
Okay.
So the gear bolts to it, and the wings bolt to it, and the lift strut fits right through here. All
Okay.
three of those major components are mounted to this bulkhead. And then the gear has a clamp that's inside this little fairing right here.
Okay.
There's a clamp that holds it this way, and then there's a big bolt about 1-inch diameter that goes vertically that holds that gear
okay,
in position.
all right.
And typically what happens with an airplane like this is, and it's with all tail dragger Cessnas, if you're in a ground loop and you put a hard side load on that gear, it'll break that clamp.
Okay.
And then the gear pivots on that big bolt, and it cuts through the structure.
Okay, so would you suggest that's happened to this airplane?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
definitely happened. The left gear has been broken out of its mount and repaired.
Okay,
At some
okay.
point.
So is that something that we need to be concerned about?
Well, we're going to reinspect it.
Okay.
That's what I was leading up to. As we started looking at the airplane and we cleaned all the old oil and grease off the bottom
Yeah,
of the airplane,
yeah.
we found some fasteners that have been installed since the airplane was painted yellow. They didn't paint the fasteners. So
Okay,
There's
okay.
some
Oh,
rivets.
yeah, okay.
There's some rivets and some bolts on the bottom between the two gears.
Okay.
That have been replaced since it was painted yellow.
Okay,
So that makes us suspicious that we need to go in there and look at those repairs
Yeah.
and make sure that did something come loose and it was working
Right.
and they discovered it in inspection and replaced all those fasteners. It just needs to
Okay.
be looked at.
Okay.
So when we get to that stage, we'll probably jack it up and get the weight off the gear.
Okay.
And then be able to move the gear while we're looking up inside that box to see
Got
if
it. Okay.
there's any movement. Because
Okay.
it shouldn't move at all.
It
should be rock solid.
Okay, okay. So the gear's gonna flex, but it shouldn't,
Yeah,
it
it
shouldn't.
flexes out, but
yeah.
it shouldn't go fore and aft.
Okay,
That's what we're going to look for.
all right, good,
So
good.
that's another inspection that we know that we need to do.
Okay,
As we move back, I guess we can come back here. We've started chemically stripping all the old paint off of it.
is that what Tommy's doing back there?
Yeah, Tommy's got a paint stripper going on the tail.
Okay, we'll go talk to him in a little bit.
Yeah. So we've started basically because it makes a mess. You can kind of see around it. Stripping
Yeah.
paint makes a mess.
We've used that at the museum, and frankly, we've stopped using it.
Yeah. Well, there's two problems that you, other than the mess, there's two problems that you run into with stripper. You can use what I call the environmentally friendly stripper that you can buy at Home Depot or Ace or some car place. And then you can buy the commercial grade stuff. The
Okay.
environmentally friendlier paint stripper against this kind of paint, this is obviously some kind of urethane that's on it.
Okay,
It doesn't dissolve the paint very well, so it takes a long time. It takes several applications to get it going.
so what are you using? We've used MEK, I
Yeah.
think it's called.
This is called CB219, and this
Okay.
is a commercial grade
Okay.
paint stripper. That the way I call it, you have your environmentally friendly paint stripper / pancake topping because it's not very aggressive.
Okay,
And it doesn't burn your skin when you get it on you or anything like that. And then we have the CB, which is what we refer to here as the DNA altering paint stripper.
Okay.
It is
All
a
right.
caustic, toxic
Okay.
paint stripper that you have to be really careful with.
so let's tell people why we're stripping it down to bare metal. Why not just paint over it?
Well, there's several reasons to do that. For one reason, you can see it's got the civilian markings on it.
Right,
And if you go we could have opted to just wet sand the whole thing and put a new finish right on top of the old paint. It
Right.
was sticking reasonably well. It wouldn't take that much to do it. The problem is that you can't make those stripes and those numbers go away completely. You'll always
so
be
there's
able
always
to
gonna
see
be
them
something.
through the
Yeah,
paint. No
okay.
matter how hard you try to sand it down,
okay,
you're always going to be able to see the layer of paint that's underneath.
got it.
That's one thing. The other thing is that this airplane's going to be painted in the light gray Air Force markings.
Right.
And anytime you undo a screw or take off an access panel, you're going to chip the new paint, and you'll be able to see yellow. And on a gray airplane,
It's
it'll
gonna
stand
pop
out like
right
a
out.
sore thumb.
Yeah,
So
okay.
It and we'll get a much better product if we just strip it down and reprime it.
Okay.
And knowing that we have some heavy sheet metal work to do, the old paint just gets in the way when
Okay,
you're drilling
good.
rivets and things like that. And then when you bucket, you shoot the rivets back in, it's going to crack the old paint.
Okay.
And so there's just more repair to deal with. It's easier to just strip it off.
Okay. Hey, Tommy, you've got a story that you were telling me about.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we go ahead and show people some of the things you found in this airplane?
Other than dirt daubers. and
Dirt daubers, and
wasp
yeah, he
nests.
showed me dirt daubers and wasp nests, but you found something else that was kind of interesting.
Yes,
here.
sir. And it was right back in this area here,
Okay.
and it's a spent
It's a 45
APC.
round.
Yep, 45 APC, which was the sidearm of the pilots. Was a
Right.
1911,
Right.
Colt 1911, and that's what this probably came out of.
So but we don't have any idea how old it is or when it got there
No,
or
sir.
anything. So
It's been in there for a while.
but you said, and I think Lanny mentioned this too. You've got about 50 pounds of North Texas dirt and mud dauber and stuff like that in here.
North side Fort Worth.
North side Fort Worth. So those things just kind of get into everything, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So do you want to? Are you stripping, doing some paint stripping on one of the pieces here?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to show us that a little bit?
Come on back.
And Lanny, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
We'll let they said Tommy doing this stuff.
Now, this is the vertical off the tail, and this is the horizontal.
Okay. So why don't we look at this piece? So what is all this bubbly stuff here?
This is the stripper.
Okay.
And
So you just use small areas at a time?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Well, that way we can control it a little better. And if you get too big of an area, it'll tend to dry out, and then it just glues
Okay.
itself back down.
So you take this and then you get it down to kind of like this
bare metal.
to the bare metal.
Right.
Okay. And have you found any other colors underneath this?
No, sir.
Underneath the yellow? So,
No, sir, other than
so more
just
than
the-
likely
the primer.
when they did the work on this airplane, they stripped it down before they
I
painted
think
it too.
when the Forestry Service got it, they probably had a commercial shop.
Okay.
Doing it to government standards,
Yeah.
so to speak. They stripped it all the way down. We know that they didn't take the tail off when they stripped it.
Oh, really?
Because it's still got olive drab, Army olive drab on it.
Oh.
Where they couldn't get stripper to it.
Okay,
Where
okay.
the horizontal was sitting on the top of the fuselage.
Yeah.
They couldn't strip that, and that's about the only olive drab that we found on it. So this airplane's been stripped all the way to white metal, we call it.
Okay.
And then epoxy primed, and then urethane. The yellow's urethane, which makes it a hard finish to strip off. 'Cause
Oh,
it's on
okay,
there very well.
okay,
It's on
okay.
there very well.
Now,
Good
is that
stuff.
because they went all the way to metal, or is it that because of the paint?
It's both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah, they went all the way to the metal and got a good coat of primer on it, which adhered very well.
Okay.
It's not coming off in very many places. I don't know what year it was painted yellow, but it was quite a while back.
We could probably check on that, but we know the airplane originally went to the Army Air Corps, and we think it went to a National Guard or a reserve unit. We think it was out in Washington. We really don't know a lot about the history of this airplane. And then the Forest Service had it for a number of years, and then they started disposing of their bird dogs. So we're really very happy to have this one. So we go back and take a look. It looks like you've got some aluminum covering up the windows.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Now, what is the purpose of that, or have you got some other things here you want to talk about?
Well, we can stand right here
Okay.
if the lights work.
Oh yeah,
for
no,
you,
it's fine.
But we basically, like we described a little earlier, this stripping process makes such a mess
Okay.
that we started high up on the fuselage as we could, doing the top of the cabin, and then we start working our way down so that the stripper runs down onto stuff
Right.
that hasn't been stripped yet. If
Okay,
you start at the bottom
okay.
and go up, you're going to keep re-cleaning what you've already done.
Right, and we've damaged some canopies using
Yeah.
the chemical stripper. I got a couple of questions here. Somebody said, "Is it going to gray?" Yes, it's going to go. It's going to go to Air Force gray, the way it was in or this airplane didn't go to Vietnam, but the way these airplanes were in Vietnam. And we're going to do what we refer to as a Harlequin paint job on this airplane. One side is going to represent the red markers, who were the original O-1 Bird Dog facts in Southeast Asia. And the other side of it is going to represent the aircraft that I think he was a captain, a lieutenant or Captain Wilbanks, who was a recipient of the Medal of Honor flying a Bird Dog. So essentially it's going to be all gray. It's going to be the same. It's only going to be some accent markings on the either sides that'll be able to know the difference. But there you go, Mike. That's the answer on that. It's going to go gray.
Yeah. So what we did, because the back, what I call the back windshield,
Okay.
was out of the airplane when it arrived. So to keep all that nasty stripper
Got it. Okay.
FOD from getting inside the cabin and making us repaint everything in there, we built this little gutter system so that it slides off the back of the
Good.
airplane and goes to the floor.
So who's mostly working on the airplane? Just you and Tom?
Me and Tom, Jerry Asher.
Oh, Jerry's been out here too.
Jerry's
Good.
been
Great.
working on it a little bit.
Okay.
He's actually had just finished up. We just finished up the L5 that's sitting in front of it.
Right.
And so Jerry, this past weekend, Jerry did a little fine tuning on a couple of things, and then he's going to switch over
Okay.
and help us with this airplane.
Okay. Are you finding anything have you taken it apart that looks like other things we need to be concerned about, like the gear that you're talking about?
No, we like I said, as you can see, we took the whole empennage off of it, and that
Right.
was for several reasons. We could obviously tell that it hadn't been off in quite a while.
Sorry about that, folks. It'll do that once in a while.
It actually looked. It obviously appeared that the horizontal and the vertical hadn't been off the airplane since it came out of the factory. Best we can
Okay.
tell, because it's still olive drab. The hardware was a little tough, and so we wanted to inspect it. We didn't want to put an airplane back together and figure
Got it.
out later on that we had corrosion and we have to tear.
Have to
apart
get
the paint
back in
scheme.
there.
Yeah, we have to go back.
Now,
in.
how far back in the tail can you get on this thing? Tommy talked about where he found that spent round.
Yeah, I've been all the way. Personally, I've been all the way back to here.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Okay,
because
that
tail
looks.
off. There's cables that go to the trim
Yeah.
tabs that we had to disconnect.
But that
so
just looks like a pretty tight space in there.
it's a little cozy.
So if you're claustrophobic, this wouldn't be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd avoid that.
Okay. Okay. So what else would you like to tell folks about this so far? What kind of, let's put it this way. How is this compared to some of the other jobs you've done on airplanes? Is this
Well-
harder, less hard, medium?
So far, I mean, other than just grunt labor with stripping and disassembling and things, it's really an easy airplane to work on.
Okay.
By comparison to some of the other airplanes that we've done here that are wood and fabric, and it's a little bit more labor intensive than that, and
Okay.
it's a skill set that there aren't that many people out there that do fabric work or aircraft grade woodwork. So this one's all metal, which is one of the things that makes this airplane real popular in the civilian world. Is
Right.
compared to the L5. L5s are kind of a niche market. You really have to love the history and things like that,
Okay.
because you're going to pay for it in work
Okay.
and labor to be
Okay.
able to maintain a wood and fabric airplane, where this is a metal airplane, and there's a lot. Cessna made a lot of these, and there's a lot of spare parts
Right,
out
okay.
there, which makes it logistically a supportable airplane for
Okay.
an entry-level warbird guy.
Now, have you flown bird dogs?
Yes, I have.
Now, there's some differences in the way this tail dragger handles as opposed to some others.
Yes. Yeah.
And
the tail-
what is that?
Well, you've got more airplane behind you
Okay.
on the tail wheel than you do in front of you. So if you're flying
Okay.
a Cessna with a nose gear, it's all three rollers, so to speak, are pretty close coupled,
Okay. Right.
and it's real positive on the way you steer the airplane. It's real intuitive because you push
Okay.
on the rudder pedal and the nose gear turns and it goes the way you want it to go. On a tail dragger airplane, you have more weight behind you,
Okay.
and the tail wheel actually turns opposite direction of the way you push the pedal.
Oh, okay.
It's got a little bit of a lag to it, and that weight and that lag makes it a different skill set.
Okay.
I'd call it, to fly in a
Okay.
tail wheel airplane. And all you viewers out there can experiment with it if you want to. Next time you go to the grocery store, get a grocery cart that's got casters at the front of the cart and fixed wheels at the back of the cart. Turn it around backwards and push it in the parking lot, and you can watch it. It'll switch ends. It'll spin around.
You mean with the fixed wheels forward?
Yeah, with the fixed wheels
Okay.
forward, the
Okay.
handle in forward, and you're at the caster end, and give it a little speed, and then let it go, and it'll spin around in a circle before you know it. And that's exactly what a tailwheel airplane will do.
Okay,
So
okay.
You can't let it. You got to keep it from doing that.
So you're flying it all the way to the chocks?
Yeah, absolutely. You
Okay.
never can let go, or it'll switch ends on you.
Okay.
If you let it.
Well, we're just about to the end of this here. Has anybody got any questions? Oh, when can I come volunteer? Joseph Fisher's asking that.
Okay. Well, we're pretty much here every Saturday unless we have an air show in the area that we take some of the airplanes to. So.
Okay, so there you go, Joseph. And let's see, anything else? Tommy?
Jim, and just seeing how this thing is 68 years, it's going to be 68 years old, November 20th.
November 20th, so it's
Yes,
got a
it is.
birthday coming up.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was built in 1952, November 20th.
All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. Somebody remind us of that. We'll have a virtual party or something like that.
Sounds good.
So, unless, Lanny, you got anything else?
That's pretty much it
Okay.
for today, for this round.
Okay, well, Lanny, Tom, we really appreciate your guys' time this morning. We can see that there's progress being made on the airplane, so that's why I've got a smile on my face. We're always glad to see progress on the airplane. So,
Amen.
thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. So, from here at Prop Wash, this is Jim Hodson with the Fort Worth Aviation Museum, signing off.